Kurumzari. Welcome to Finding the Voices. I am Monica Ingadam.
I'm Monica Ingadam. Welcome to Finding the Voices. Right now we have a very special guest today. We have Noopur Singha.
Hi, Kurumzari.
Yeah, and she is specialized in Manipuri dancing and also Balinese dance. So today we are going to talk a little bit about her dancing, her career, and also about Manipur. So to start with, how about you give us a brief introduction?
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me. We were just saying this is my first interview, so I'm very excited. So my name is Noopur Singha, and I'm from this area in Maryland, near DC. And I grew up here. My father is Nabaghana Singha, and my mother is Christel Stevens, and I grew up learning dance in their dance school, Nritya Rangam, and we studied Meitei Jagoy, Indian folk dance. Everyone in my family is an artist, dancer, musician. My older sister is a great Kathak dancer, and my younger brother is a drummer, percussionist. He lives in New York. So I grew up in that kind of environment. So I think that really pushed me to go into the dance, theater, and arts direction.
So you grew up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, you did travel to Manipur and other places to learn your dancing. So can you share a little bit about that?
So when I was growing up, of course, we would travel to India to visit family, and at that time it was mostly. At that time, my mother was actually doing her master's degree. So sometimes she would go to India also for research trips, and a couple times we were also able to go with her. So when we were young, it was mostly my parents doing the researching and the studying there, and we were more, tagging along with them. But we did get to, having fun. I mean, of course, my whole childhood was my parents taking me to different dance performances, theater performances, so we grew up being surrounded by that. So I remember going to Manipur at that time when we were very young. I think one of the projects my mom was doing was interviews with various Maibis and Maibas. And so I remember going there to the different houses and seeing them and talking about Lai Haroba and like that older culture and things like that. So that was when I was young. After college, I think in 2008, I went back to Manipur to study dance. I went by myself at that time. It was still a restricted area at that time, so it was a little bit tough to stay, but I stayed, I think, about a month and a half. And I studied in the school of Oja Babu, who was actually my mother's teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. And so then, but I studied with his son and daughter-in-law, Oja Chorji and Oja Bimula Devi. And they really pushed me really hard, and it was one of the most intense and amazing dance experiences ever. Living with my Guruji and also having to learn so much information in just 1 month and a half, and just every day, practice, and, not getting to go out of the house and just, they made the schedule. They said, now you eat, now you sleep, now you practice. And I was really part of their family, but also it was like we were all pushing together and fighting together to help me get the information. So it was like one of the greatest blessings. I can't describe the experience. It was very, very emotional, mentally intense, but also emotionally intense experience to be able to do that. And I hope to do something like that again. Of course, it's always a matter of getting grant or how are we going to go back to Manipur, but But yeah, that was one of my most cherished experience of learning Manipuri dance was at that time when I went by myself. I was actually in Bali at that time, so I went from Indonesia to India and then back again, which is another place that I continually go to.
So, when you were growing up, of course, Manipuri dance influenced you because of your parents. But was that, something you liked, or it was something your parents kind of pushed you into?
It's hard to say because, the story is even before I was born, my mom she was pregnant and she danced. She was practicing in rehearsal until like 7 or 8 months.
Wow.
And actually there's two stories, two mystical stories. Okay, one is that she was practicing a lot of Naga dance at that time. So a lot of jumping movements. And then after I came out, I was always jumping highest and farthest. And even when I was little, there's one video you can see I'm doing the sailor dance, a koruvayu, and I'm the smallest one, but every time I jump, I just try to go the farthest out of anybody. So that's why I think to this day, my favorite is to jump really high because my mom did a lot of Naga dance while I was still inside. And then the second one is about Bali, but we can get to that one later.
Sure. Yeah, and when you speak about Manipuri dance, learning like way back in 2008 when you went, it looked like it was more your initiative and something in you kind of, told you to get over there and learn more. So can you share a little bit about what are you specialized in Manipuri dance and what kind of dance format and, things like that?
When I was studying there, I was, and through my life, I've always done more of like doing role of Krishna. So the focus was more on the Tandav style and jumping. so every dance I learned there, except for Lai Haroba and Maibi dance. But the other ones, the focus was mostly on learning the dance in the more Tandav style. So I would say that's my specialty right now. The one I perform most in America right now is Krishna Nartan.
Okay.
Which has a lot of really really fun bowls that are like very fast and spinning and jumping and things I like to do. So that's what I'm mostly doing now.
Okay, so how did, so initially it was all about Manipuri dance and then you kind of moved into Balinese dance. So how did that come about and, if you can share a little bit about your trip over there and the dance form you have learned. So I grew up here in Maryland in, arts family, Manipuri community. My parents were some of the founding members of the North American Manipuri Association, and back at that time the Manipuri community was really small, so we had to travel far distance and meet our cousins from here and there and all over America and Canada and everything. So that was like a big drive to bring that community together. Also, being part of the Indian dance community of Maryland and just the larger Indian community, that's a very big community. So we grew up in that. And then the larger just arts community of Maryland, which is very diverse, very many people from all over the world are still here practicing their art form. People that came to America for whatever reason are still have dance companies here and arts groups and this and that. So my parents had like a high level of entrance into that world. So I just grew up thinking, this is normal. Like all these different kinds of dances, all these different kinds of people practicing their craft, and grew up respecting that as a valid profession because I saw everyone around me had this job. So I think that kind of sparked me to think that that I could try different things, kind of, or at least be interested in different things, and try it, enjoy it, have a kind of access to it that's like I can understand and appreciate it. I think some people see something that's different
and they think, oh, like I can't understand that, or I don't know what that is, or I don't have, almost as if they feel they're not allowed to really take part in it. But I think that's just a mentality that because I just grew up seeing everything, I thought
You were more
I could
open.
appreciate different things for what it was. So as I was growing up, I also went to the Washington School of Ballet, and then I went on to the Conservatory of Dance at Purchase College. So that was more like Western ballet, modern, Western choreographic techniques, things like that I was learning, Western art history. And so that is like another whole world, you know, each world of dance is really something completely different. But just learning all those different things made it so that once I was slowly introduced to this concept of Balinese dance it was just a very gradual way. I was doing work study in my college in the library, and because it's an art school, there's a big section of art and world art and theater and performance costumes and that. And I found 3 books in a row all about Balinese theater. And they were like kind of the most in-depth books we had about, you know, a foreign kind of theater that was not Western or was not like, you know, Edo era Japanese painting or something that's a little more something we're used to hearing about. So it was something that I hadn't heard about before, and I saw that there was all these very interesting books. And then as I slowly got into it, I realized all of these artists that we know had gone to Bali and had somehow become obsessed with the gamelan music or the Balinese theater, or, you know, had spent some time there or had tried to study it, this and that. So I started to germinate the idea, like what is happening over there that's so special. And I just saw the costumes, and I read about the traditions, and a lot of it is something similar feeling to Manipur, in that Bali is kind of a little different, because right now Indonesia is all Islam and Bali is still Hindu. The type of Hinduism they practice, a lot of it comes from South India, but some of the things there maintain something that's the Balinese flavor.
Okay.
And so I feel like in Manipur we have Hinduism, but we also have this older Sanamahi that people still practice.
Right.
You know, and so there was something there that kind of clicked for me too.
I see.
I know that, or I can understand that something there. And so I started, when I was around 19, I started going to the Indonesian embassy here in DC. And at that time they didn't have a Balinese class. So I started just learning Javanese music, Javanese dance, Sundanese dance, just whatever I could get my hands on. All my summers off from college.
Oh, I didn't know that the embassy offers like art.
Yeah,
classes.
at that time they did. They still have music and dance. So
Okay.
yeah, they do. If you inquire, the music is obviously more popular.
I see.
But I was playing music for a while there, and then I kind of kept asking, but I want to do dance.
Okay,
but I want to do dance.
so
Like,
your
I was
main
pushing
passion
them.
is dance. Yeah.
So I don't know if they offer it openly, but I kind of pushed them, and
Yeah.
they're like, okay, come, you can join our group. And so I started working with them and performing with them. And then after a couple years, when I was about to graduate college, they said, oh, you know, there's this Dharma Siswa scholarship. You can go study in Indonesia, and if you want, you should go to Bali, because you keep, you know, being so interested in it. And I applied, and I got it. So after I graduated from college, I went to Bali. And at that time, it was still like hobby. I was interested. I want to taste it.
Yeah, you were
I want
not
to
sure.
learn, appreciate it. You know, I didn't think, you know, the future was going to be like snowballed the way it did. But I went there for 4 months, and I studied. I practiced very hard, and you know, I really enjoyed it. But at that time, my friends who had graduated college had moved to New York City, and they were starting to make their work and, you know, work with other dance artists and stuff. And I was also interested, you know, I want to make work with my friends, you know, why am I learning this Balinese dance right now? This is a big time for me to start. And so I moved to New York for 2-3 years, very, I just graduated from college, downtown New York dance scene, new person. So I tasted that, and, that was great. As I was nearing the end of my stay in New York, I was doing more, I think, work with Manipuri dance and Balinese dance, and getting more jobs doing that. And so at the end of my stay in New York, I went back to Bali, and that's when I went to Manipur in 2008. And then when I came back, I joined Dharmaswara.
Okay.
And that's like the big Balinese orchestra in New York City, and they were preparing for their tour to Bali. And that's really what pushed me into the world of Balinese dance. I got more connections. They introduced me to more teachers. I used that tour to be able to get a longer visa to stay in Bali. So then I went there for 6 months that time, and then a couple years later I went on a tour with another group, Gita Asmara from Vancouver, and that time I stayed another 3 or 4 months. So the snowball effect started, and because that community is so big, and Balinese things are so popular, it has been a more active.
So of course you liked both the dance form, but you morphed more into a Balinese dancer, and not, you do perform Manipuri dance now, but would you say it has reduced because of the opportunity you get? And if you can share your thoughts on, how popular Manipuri dance is over here, and give an insight on that.
The thing is that anytime I get the opportunity to perform Manipuri dance, I do. We just recently had a very interesting show that was mother-daughter duets in Indian dance, and it was almost this performance of a community. And it was very exciting to see that we have our own classical dance community, even in America, that are parents handing down their art to their children. And it was all, there was Kuchipudi, Bharatanatyam, Mohiniyattam, Odissi, and Manipuri. I'm not sure if they had Odissi, but it was all mothers dancing with their daughters. And so that was a very inspired concept, performance. Shobha Subramaniam, the Mohiniyattam teacher, her and her daughter came up with the idea, and we performed it in Baltimore. And that was a very, a dancer creating a concept for dancers. You don't usually get that. Usually it's gigs here and there, people asking for dancers for this or that event. So because Manipuri dance, we don't have that big community yet. And now the community is a lot bigger. But especially for Manipuri dancers, it's like one over here, one over there, one, it's not, for Indonesian community, there's so many gamelan groups and musical groups, and that's the main draw, is people come for the orchestra, and then whoever's around, they want to hire to do the dance, for the welcome dance to the show or something like that. So just that community is enormous, and not just with Indonesian people, but with people that are interested in gamelan music, because since the tourism explosion in Bali, that was way back in the early 1900s. Bali has become more and more famous. There's a musical, Bali High, and all of this stuff. So it's just a destination place, and there's pros and cons to that. Some people say it's not good, because now it's just this tourist Disney World kind of effect, but it does. We do have quorum here to make productions and to have shows. For if I wanted to make a show for Manipuri dance, it would just probably be just me, dancing.
Because
so
there are
it's
not
harder to
many-
make a whole production.
Okay, so what I'm getting is like, first of all, we don't have a huge community, and
Yeah.
secondly, within that community again, we don't have dancers.
Right.
And then I guess the awareness of Manipuri dance is not as big as other dance form.
Right. Also, yeah, it's hard. I don't have very good business sense. When my parents first moved here and they had the Nrityarangam school, it was big. They did huge productions every year of Ramayana, Krishna Leela. Like, I can't even imagine. I don't know if it was just a different time then. But just I watched those old videos of those productions, and I can't imagine having the resources to do that. And part of it was just their blood, sweat, and tears of just making it, and partly was art. I don't know if artist resources were more available then. I doubt it, but yeah, they just had that good team effect, and they really pushed it through and made it happen. But right now, since they're not performing anymore, it's more dispersed, I guess.
Okay.
So it's not. It's a huge undertaking and project, but also. For me, I'm totally. I don't know how they did it. It amazes me still to this day if I see one of those old videos of those productions. I don't know how they did it. It's so. It's just monumental, It was really so many students at that time, and there was music. My dad taught setar, tabla. He taught Kathak, he taught Indian folk dance, he taught Meitei Jagoi, and everyone would come together. And my mother also does Bharatanatyam, so they would just,
it was like
everyone,
yeah.
they would just pull everything together and make this thing, once a year, rent out, a school auditorium. And these days everything seems a little bit more dispersed, not as unified.
Okay. So yeah, you spoke, you mentioned a little bit about your business sense. So I wanted to ask you, I see that you're very passionate about dance, both form like Manipuri or Balinese. So are you able to sustain yourself being a dancer, or do you have to work, in other department, not in the dance area, to sustain yourself?
Well, right now I'm doing a production, The Jungle Book, and I'm actually working as an actor in that. I'm saying lines and everything. The audition for that was a dance audition, and I think they thought originally that they were going to have more dancing in it, but it turned out to be just a pretty straightforward play. We do some more movement. They hired a Kuchipudi dance choreographer to come in, and we do some little hastamudras here and there, and I do a little dance. My character Ka does a little dance in the beginning. But yeah, it is mostly acting work, which I'd never done before.
Okay, so this is a new area you're exploring.
So I wouldn't say I'm exploring it, but it's my job right now, and it's very fun. I love it. It's very fun and exciting. But of course, for acting, there's a lot more work available than dancing. I think in America, there's not that many avenues, or there's not as much comparable money in that field as in the field of dance. There's a few, there's a couple of the main big companies. If you're a ballet dancer, you have more options. In modern dance, you have some options, but usually even if you're working in a big name company, you're just sliding by, and even those dancers are taking up other side jobs and stuff. So it's definitely, artist life. You have to do everything. One day you're on stage and you're beautiful and you're getting a standing ovation. The next day you're cutting someone's lawn or, whatever, painting a house, or, I do everything to get by. But yeah, I think it's more normal than you think, because what most people don't know what is the life of an artist, I guess. So there's no real way, like what we see on TV is like celebrities,
Right. I
So-
mean, we see, the beautiful you performing with all the beautiful costumes, and then all the expressions. So yeah, please, share the
It's
glimpse
hard
of
the behind the
Behind the
scenes.
scene.
Yeah, it's not. I just learned this term. Actually, my actor friends in the Jungle Book said that people often say about acting, it's feast or famine. So sometimes you have a lot of work, and sometimes you don't get work for a long time. And I find that with dance, especially, usually when I was just talking to you, when springtime hits, everything gets rolling. You're super busy. You have all these performances. You're doing this and that. Then usually summer dance programs start. It's a little slower. There's more like teaching opportunities. Usually, fall you have like a big show. I feel like that's where I always have like my big shows, kind of like in the fall or spring. And then winter usually gets very slow, very, very slow. And sometimes you're just like, oh no, what's happening? This is bad. And then spring hits, and then again you're busy. So it really depends. Every year is different. Every time is different. So yeah, you have to fill the time. Most dancers, they do waitressing. I worked in a kitchen for a long time. I was cooking food. That wasn't very easy and not a lot of money, but I've bus tabled, I wash dishes. Now I'm doing bartending. I've painted houses and done odd jobs. I've also worked on boats. I've worked, I don't know, most jobs you can have. Like you have to be able to bite the bullet and accept that you have to pay your rent, and you can't always be thinking of new great concepts for your next piece. Some part of the week has to be spent on making money.
You spoke about expression, and I was looking into some of your dance performance, and of course, comparing between Manipuri dance and Balinese. Manipuri dance has movement, but not so much of expression. And I saw that in Balinese you have a lot of expression.
Facial,
So can you compare the two dance forms?
I think learning,
what you like.
Yeah,
in each.
Learning how to do the facial expressions in the Balinese dance was the hardest for me. That's what took me the longest to learn.
I see.
I think because I had grown up with this idea of like bhakti. And then when you're dancing, you know, like all these ideas that my parents would be like, oh, and she was dancing and she was just crying and all of this. And, people just having this union with Krishna while they're dancing and, very internal, and like, even Manipuri singing sounds like crying. And so it was a very, very spiritual experience, to perform. And then to go to Bali and it's very in your face kind of,
very animated, and
exactly.
You kind of show the dance movement of course is there, but I think when I saw it, what caught my eye was the expression.
Right. Yeah, that was very hard, even just to wrap my mind around that. I think even philosophically I resisted that idea for a while, because it was kind of foreign to me, because it is the opposite of Manipuri dance. I feel like I grew up doing Manipuri dance. I would even not look at the audience,
Right.
So for Balinese dance, you have to open your eyes and you have to have a very specific facial expression that's kind of yours.
Very interesting. And,
So
you mastered both, so that's very interesting.
it's not easy. Why did I do that? I don't know. But yeah, that is definitely one of the main differences. Also,
what I'm getting from you is like you as an artist would want to continue performing in art form which you believe in and which you're comfortable and which your body would work with that comfort level.
Unfortunately, that's true about me. I only want to do things that I like 100% believe in. I'm very bad like that. That's why I'm kind of excited to be trying new things now, because I'm like, maybe I'm not as bad as I used to be. Definitely when I was younger, if there was one thing I didn't like, I would just
not
say
do it.
no,
but it is very interesting, because when I have interviewed artists in my show, be it singer or a writer or any form of different art form, they seem to be always struggling between two lines, like a line wherein you have to opt because you have to earn money to survive. And a line wherein you believe in your creativity, but that doesn't really pay,
That, I think that's exactly what
yeah,
it
so
is.
I have always seen artists having that dilemma, and sometimes it's almost like selling your soul, because you have to survive, you have to pay the bills, and then you end up doing some commercial things, but may not necessarily be what you is within the realm of your creativity and what you believe.
It is a give and take, and a lot of people, I think most people do both.
And if they can balance well, that's good for them.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much for being in our show and sharing your journey of being an artist.
Thank you. I hope it was not too depressing or aggravating, and a little funny and pleasant.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, it's very interesting to learn always, a story from your own words, because like you said, when we see your performance, we see the beauty in your creative art. We do know, don't think that we don't know that, you have put a lot of effort and rehearsal in that performance. But yes, it is difficult for somebody who is just sitting in a chair and watching your performance to know what goes behind. So thank you so much for sharing, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Please keep tuning in at Finding the Voices.